And in the midst of all the fallout, early pay-per-view estimates are in, and they have UFC 29 as the most popular UFC fight of all time.
And it's hard to believe that just 25 years ago, the Ultimate Fighting Championship was just an idea and the dream of a man named Art Davie.
And 13 Action News sports reporter Jackie Kostick caught up with Davie today to talk about how his idea evolved into the UFC that we know today.
Yeah, guys, Art Davie really built the UFC from scratch. 5 years into the business, he sold his share of the company for $1 million. Just 2 years ago, it sold for $4 billion. Davie said of all of the ideas he's had, this was the one that clicked.
As a teenager, Art Davie wanted to know something. In a match between a boxer and a wrestler, who would win?
22 seconds later, I'm on the sand.
In this case, Davie was the boxer, his friend was the wrestler, and it was with his head in the sand that Davie came up with the best question of his life.
Who's the greatest fighter in the world? Is it a judo player? Is it a boxer, a wrestler? Who is it?
There was only one way to answer that question, so he wrote a business plan and began pitching TV networks.
It's called The World's Best Fighter, the world's greatest fighter. And they said, well, how would it work? And I explained that it's a tournament, it would be on pay-per-view, and they said, gee, this sounds uber violent. I said, yeah, actually it would be.
Davie says he hoped for 50,000 buys that first championship. They did more than 86,000. Davie continued growing the UFC until 1998 when he sold his share of the company for $1 million. He says what happened post-fight on Saturday likely wouldn't have happened in the UFC's early days.
These guys afterwards would just hug each other. They were brothers because they had been in a war together. There was a sense of camaraderie that was pretty unique to the time.
As for whether Davie thinks the UFC could have done anything to prevent the post-fight brawl,
I'm not sure how much more you could have done other than assign a cop to every single fighter and entourage member. You know, and even then they still might be able to slip past you and throw a punch.
The UFC was indeed unique. And although Davie has mostly watched the recent success of the UFC from outside the ring, he says he only has gratitude for the adventure.
Very few people in life get a chance to do what I did and see it survive them and go beyond them. Long after I'm gone, there'll still be MMA, and there'll still be a UFC.
And in January of this year, this book, Is This Legal?, about the story of Art Davie and the start of the UFC, was auctioned, meaning that it could eventually turn into a movie. Jackie Kostick, 13 Action News.